to hiring.
I'm going to test this out and see if that's going to help.
It's working.
How's that?
It's working.
All right. Very good. Well, welcome, everybody. Howdy and happy Easter season. It's a great time to rejoice in this time of Easter, 50 days long, and we prepare for 40 days and celebrate for 50 days, so it's a great thing to do is celebrate and rejoice in the season. But also, this is a great time for Texas, as we endured March 6th and the fall of the Alamo, March 27th, the massacre in Goliad, that led to the rallying that we're about to celebrate on the 21st, come next Tuesday, Battle of San Jacinto, the victory of Texas independence. And so it's a great time to celebrate Texas. 190 years later, here we are sitting here trying to protect and defend children in public school libraries. And here in the Northeast ISD, it's very important because there's some situations that people need to know about. And so we're glad you're here to learn. And we're blessed to have Bonnie with us. And Bonnie comes from Llano, or Llano, some might say. And so she came in this earlier today and to join us. She's a renowned expert on public school libraries and the books in them. And she has recently presented at the Northeast ISD School Board in a meeting there earlier this year. And also want to thank a couple of elected representatives that are here. Marcia Landry on the Northeast Independent School District Board, District 7, Madison West area, which we're close to right here. And then also Mark LaHood, State Representative, House District 121, and which is also part of this district. And then also want to recognize Carlos de la Cruz. He's in the runoff for Congressional District 35. The runoff is on May 27th, 26th. And we have an important note in regards to that is the Northeast Independent School District has an election with many of the other local elections coming up on May 2nd. And that's just early voting starts April 20th, so make sure you get out and vote vote wisely, vote with a well-formed conscience. So let us begin in prayer. Ask the one triune God to bless us. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. We stand before you, Holy Spirit, conscious of our sinfulness, but aware that we gather in your name. Come to us, remain with us, and enlighten our hearts. Give us light and strength to know your will, to make it our own, and to live it in our lives. Guide us by your wisdom, support us by your power. For you are God, sharing the glory of the Father and the Son. You desire justice for all. Enable us to uphold the rights of others. Do not allow us to be misled by ignorance or corrupted by fear or favor. Unite us with yourself in the bond of love, and keep us faithful to all that is true. As we gather in your name, may we temper justice with love, so that all our decisions may be pleasing to you and earn the reward promised to good and faithful servants. We ask this of you who live and reign with the Father and the Son, one God, forever and ever. Amen. Also, there's another candidate I do want to recognize and running for Northeast Independent School District, District 7, Sherry Ettinger, and was sitting next to Mark and was recruited by Mark and with the help of San Antonio Family Association sister organization and the Texas Family Action. So I want to thank you for each of you for being here and all you guests. Northeast ISD got on the radar screen of many people, including myself and my father. My name is Patrick Von Dolan, father of 9 children who are either have graduated from the Northeast ISD or in the system right now. And so obviously very concerning for me as a parent. And but we've seen some changes come across Northeast Independent School District since, especially since 2014. And some many unfortunate things that have happened in that time. And so the public school libraries is just the latest to be exposed for things that need to be improved and parents that you need to know about so they can protect their children. And so that's why we're here today. And without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Mary Ann Boshin, who helped orchestrate and put this seminar together, if you're willing, and come up here and introduce Bonnie. And how blessed we are to have volunteers like Mary Ann to help us make this look great and to secure this facility. We're at the Northeast Senior Center, so if you haven't been here, it's a neat place to go. Lots of taxpayer money to go to these senior centers, so we need to make sure we get people here using them. Come on up, Mary Ann.
Thank you, Bonnie, for being here today. I appreciate it.
I just want to introduce Bonnie Wallace. I was introduced to her virtually through Patrick several weeks ago, and he said, I have this friend who would like to present on what's going on in your kid's school. As a parent who raised 4 daughters through Northeast Independent School District, I have an idea of what goes on in those schools. I had children who spent probably 11 years with the span of all 4 daughters in the system, and it's really changed an awful lot. So
Not for the good.
not for the good. So I'd like Bonnie to come up and visit with us.
I'm actually going to stand kind of over here because my laptop is over there, but I just want to start by going over a little bit of history because I know Carlos has to leave pretty soon, but I want him to hear this. And Mark, I'm glad you're here because you need to hear some of this also. I'm from Llano County. Llano County has the moniker of being the first library in all of America sued when we took out 17 books, and you're going to see a few of them with, I say, pornographic content out of our children's section. We marched them over and we put them in the adult section. We didn't burn them in the backyard. We didn't have a bonfire or any of that. We just moved them about 30 feet from the children's section, eye level. We had some bean bags, and these books were right in front of them. And so the kids would grab the books and just sit in the bean bags and look through these naked images of people having sex. And so God put it on my heart to go out and spread the word, to go out and say, you can no longer be ignorant of what is going on in schools. And so that's all I do. For a while, I was a little discouraged because I wasn't getting enough books removed, even in Llano, very rural, very, conservative. Nope. And so I was in the wilderness one day, like the Hebrew people, and I was complaining. And I told God, nothing's happening with my efforts. Why am I wasting all this time and money and energy? And he very clearly told me, Bonnie, my job is to convict hearts. Your job is to open eyes. And I was like, oh, that's much easier. Open eyes is much easier than convicting hearts. So that's what I do. I talk about Ephesians 5:11, that's my verse. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds or evil deeds of darkness, but expose them. So I go around and I expose them. I'm just going to go through all of this. This is one of the books that was removed in Llano County from the children's section. This book is for 10 and up. And it has, pictures of 2 girls having sex, 2 boys having sex, and the first one was the heterosexual. When I showed this book to the county judge, he freaked out. And I took it to my commissioners, and they all thought this is vastly inappropriate, and so they moved it to the adult section. We got sued. I got sued personally in that lawsuit. The judge, the 4 commissioners, the library director, and me because I told them. So be careful what you tell people, right? No, we still have to stand. God calls us to stand. But this is one of the books. Genderqueer was another book. It's very popular. This was the very first picture I ever saw. My mind exploded because I could not believe that, we have these books in Llano. But guess what? We went through the whole court system. It took 4 years. In May of last year, the 5th Circuit came out with an en banc ruling, which means the full court heard us. And they said that it was fantastic. My favorite phrase from the ruling is, take a deep breath, everyone. No one is banning or burning books. If you cannot find a book you want at your local library, you can always buy it from Amazon. And that's what this is about, y'all. This is taxpayer-funded money buying pictures like you just saw. So I'm just going to go through a couple of these quickly because I want to get down to a book that you do not have here. But Texas, by the way. I have a friend who owns Take Back the Classroom. She's from Tennessee. She has created this website, and you can go in and pick all the 50 states. And she doesn't have all the school districts like in Texas. She has 808. You might know we have 1,207. So there's about 400 school districts that she has not gone through yet. But we have 53,000 books that are bad. Let's talk about it. I take this book everywhere I go. I showed it to the Lieutenant Governor. He freaked out. He had a press conference, and he asked me to give. We have in Texas, I don't know if you know, 150 representatives after the Book of Psalms, and we have 31 senators after the Book of Proverbs. And so he asked me to bring 31 books. He did a press conference, and we handed one out to every senator. This was the first book, I now have 7, that I discovered that has a disclaimer. Okay, this is a children's book. It was actually the 12-year-old book of the year in 2022. Random House Children's Books. The authors and publisher expressly disclaim responsibility for any adverse effects that may result from the use or application of information contained in this book. Like, what? What are you sharing with children that needs a disclaimer? So this is what the front of the book looks like. Oops, sorry, went too fast. This is one of the pages that I show to everyone. It's not just the images, but down here in the bottom, it says, try a sex toy for bonus fun. Vibes and strokers are awesome. So they're giving a 12-year-old child the names of sex toys to look up on the internet. Like, is anybody disturbed by this? I am. Right? Another page. This page says, a great place to research kinks and fantasies safely is the internet. Okay, well, I dispute that. And then down a little lower, it says, look up interviews with your favorite porn performers. Go to the sites they recommend. Okay, why would a 12-year-old know what a porn performer was? And what kind of sites would they recommend people to go to? Y'all, this is very dark. This is very demonic. And the last thing, it says, and pay for your porn. And listen, the book, I carry it with me everywhere I go. So I'll pass it around the room. It's not the only one. I have dozens of books that are just as bad. I have a book that's not in my spreadsheet or my PowerPoint. It's called Do Animals Fall in Love? And there's a picture of 3 white-tailed deer mating. 3. That's something you will never see in nature because the 2 bucks will fight until one of them is either discouraged or dead. And sometimes their horns lock together and they both die. But they will never, ever. This one shows, and y'all can look at the pages marked, but it shows the doe on the bottom, the first buck on top of her, like you will see in nature, and then the 3rd one on top. That's something you will never see in nature. But then the next page, the next 5 pages after that one, this book is for 4-year-olds. It's all over schools in Texas. But the next 5 pages are the penis sizes of a bunch of different animals. I've had 2 4-year-olds in my life, you know, my children. Nobody ever asked, what's the penis size of a, you know, red-nosed monkey or a koala bear or a baboon? But you can look. They want our children thinking and talking about sex. That's their goal, and we have been failing because we didn't even know what the game was, right? This book is for 3-year-olds. It's called Making a Baby. Why do 3-year-olds need to know about making babies? They don't. But I have the pages marked. Again, we've got, listen, they're after group sex. 2 full-grown men in a shower with a naked little boy and the little girl on the side watching. Oh. Listen, I find this book all over. It's not in neither of these 2 younger ones are in Northeast ISD, but they're in plenty here. I mean, y'all can pass them around. So don't think it's just a few books. I have 1,869 books right now on my bad book list. So it's impossible to tell you about every one of them. But we have sex with animals. Lots of books that glorify sex with animals. We have sex with dead bodies. Lots of books, sex with dead bodies.
What would be the educational value of this?
That's, yeah, there you go. By the way, when I came the last time to San Antonio, I spoke at, I don't remember, Alamo Heights, I think. A friend of mine, Pastor Richard Vega, lives in Houston. He's running for Harris County Commissioner, Precinct 2. He won the Republican nomination, so he'll be in the November election, so we need to pray for him. But he brought a young man with me, because I never go speak anywhere unless someone calls and says, can you come? Otherwise, I would never be home again. So he brought a young man with him. And I always ask, are you comfortable reading about graphic sex? Or do you prefer to read about suicide or something else? And this young man I'd never seen before, and he said, Miss Bonnie, I was in prison for 10 years. I can read anything. I said, yes. So I don't know if y'all saw a video. I got ejected from the Houston NEISD a couple weeks ago. They dragged me out with 2 police officers because I'm so dangerous, because I was reading a book called A Court of, Liz of TikTok. And I don't use any social media, so I don't know how these people get this stuff, but anyway, yeah. So I was reading a book that y'all used to have the last time I came, but no longer have in Northeast ISD. It's called A Court of Silver Flames. I find it everywhere. And it says, his cock was enormous, beautiful and hard and absolutely enormous. She wanted him grabbing her head and fucking her mouth as hard as he went. So I was reading that, and the lady told me, that is inappropriate. And I said, I agree. Totally inappropriate. Please remove it from the libraries for your students. So they hauled me out. But listen, it's not only Houston. It's Atlanta. It's Northeast ISD. It's every single school. I have never found a clean school. Not one.
May I ask you, have you gone to the Catholic schools?
I have not gone to any Catholic schools.
Is that because you can't get into a Catholic school to do that?
It's because I can't get into the libraries. So most of the libraries I go into online. Not all. I've gone personally also. But generally I go online. Because I'm going to New Hampshire next week. So I go to New Hampshire or wherever. I can go online and search. But I cannot get into private schools, libraries. Yes, sir.
Quick question. So my 2 daughters go to St. Mary Magdalene. As a parent, do you know?
You can go.
And how do we search for, is this old school like Dewey Decimal System, or is it?
No, it isn't. It's just by, I will send you my bad book list.
Please.
And you can go in and you can look. Or you can probably take a look. But I can't go just as an individual. And I'm very anxious to get inside of some of the private schools because, listen, Satan has a large playground. And he is not content that anyone should go to heaven. Not one. And
you're saying private schools, and I don't know the difference between, well, I know public and private, but what about charter?
yeah, charter schools, I've been into many charter schools online.
Are they private or?
It's kind of a little bit of both. But they are required by Texas law to have their library catalog online.
Sorry, my kids.
God bless you,
But
sir.
thank you. Please send me this.
I'll do.
I'm going to look at St. Mary Magdalene.
I will absolutely do. God bless you. So, Texas, about 12 or 14 years ago, passed a law that said that library catalogs had to be published online.
Wow.
Okay? So, many schools just allow access. Some have been very creative and now they require a password. So when you log in, it says, oh, please send your password, please log in with your password. And if you don't have one, please come with your ID to the school and we'll issue one for you. They don't want people like me looking in the libraries. And so Mostly I can get in, and a lot of times, I'll tell you a secret, if there's more than one campus, you know, they've got 2 or 3 high schools, some middle schools, and 6 or 8 elementary schools, a lot of the elementaries don't require passwords. And so I can get in through the elementary, and then I can change it to be district-wide instead of that one elementary school. And so I'm able to do that. Not always, sometimes I can't. And my friend Karen, that has only gone into 808, that's mostly why. That those others require passwords. These are the titles, y'all. From my bad book list, I can't read more than a few bad books to y'all. So I can't give you a list of every single bad book that we have or that you have. But I put a few on here, and I'm going to read. Go ahead. 2 days ago? You're talking about how recent did I go in? Yeah. I checked also this morning because I was looking for a new one that someone sent me. I was like, where are these? I've never spoken on this bad book, but I didn't find it. So everywhere I go, I almost always read the sexualized content, which to me is terrible. It's not the only terrible thing. Go ahead, Marcia.
The monsters one was one on the list of 6 that were being taken out supposedly.
Oh, great. Oh, it was still there yesterday.
Should have ever been there.
Should not have ever been there, yeah. But listen, some school districts take 0 out. And so on my, let me see if I have my bad book list here for you. Yeah, I just got the ones that are there now. But I put dates on mine. Anytime I go look in a library, I put a date. And so I had gone back, it had been like 5 months or something. And y'all have taken out about 20 of the books. This book, the first one I'm going to read is called Collateral by Ellen Hopkins. Ellen Hopkins, something very demonic happened to this woman. She used to write books about fly fishing and, you know, normal stuff, and now she writes this. I always suggest to school boards that they take every Ellen Hopkins book out. They're very, very bad. But Ellen Hopkins, page 77, when my entire top half was exposed, his tongue explored it inch by goosebump-covered inch. And by the time he unzipped my jeans, slid them off my quaking legs, my panties had soaked through. I opened my legs wide, pushed his face in between, urged his tongue deep inside me, asked his fingers to follow. And if I were to describe size, I'd have to say 3 average, 1 little. Comparing breast size, 3 B cups, 1 AA, but Cole was a size C+. When he finally slipped inside me, if I hadn't been so wet, it would have been uncomfortable. He flipped onto his back, pulled me on top of him. His eyes never left my face as he lifted my hips, slid me backward against his critically hard erection. Page 118. In that moment, I wanted to fuck Mr. Cleaner. Some tiny, niggling splinter of me was desperate to fuck Jonah Cleaner. There's many more pages. I won't make you suffer through it. Page 218. Turns out he had regular fuck buddies. If I were a girl, they'd make me wet. As it is, they make me hard. Why are we supplying this content to our children? I can't think of any good answer.
I thought it was illegal.
It's only illegal if you get caught.
Well,
It is illegal. There's a new bill that I helped pass called SB 13. Anything that's profane or indecent or sexually explicit. So I say that's all 3. The problem is that I could not get the Senate to put in the bill an enforcement mechanism, a penalty, basically. So there's no penalty if you're ignoring it.
okay. Do libraries have special umbrellas to hide under? Because a public library is the same thing, or San Antonio Library. They're the same thing. They have things that you can read, things that kids can read, or movies and stuff.
So, the American Library Association, 92% of libraries belong to them. And they have a document that's called the Library Bill of Rights. That Library Bill of Rights tells librarians not to separate anything by age. Every child can have everything they want access to. And they say the reason is because children's minds mature at their own level, at their own, some of them rapid, some of them not so. I disagree with that. I think if y'all should watch Ted Bundy's final interview. So it was the night before he was executed, so early 1989. Dr. James Dawson interviewed him.
Focus on the family.
Focus on the family. And he, in there, talks about how when he was 11, he found he called it softcore porn in his neighbor's trash. Playboy, penthouse, something. This stuff that we have, it's way worse. But he talks about how he, after a long while, that gave him the high he needed, that softcore porn. But then at some point, he couldn't get his high. So he says, I graduated to hardcore porn. He doesn't say what it was, or we can just imagine. I have lots of books about it, I'm sure. But when that didn't give him highs anymore, he began kidnapping, raping, killing girls. And he talks about how he began on this trajectory was through a Playboy magazine or whatever. So when you go back to that one book that said, and pay for your porn, y'all, they want lifelong consumers of their product. That's what they're after. But think about it this way. When we send our children out addicted to porn, they can never have a normal sexual relationship because they think that sex looks like those movies. Mm-hmm. So one of the books that y'all removed was called Push. Push was made into a movie called Precious. In order for the movie to be made, 82% of the sex scenes from the book had to be deleted. 82% of the sex scenes. But the rated X book still sits in schools all across Texas. And not just Texas.
What was the movie rating since they took out 82?
The movie was rated R. So in order to be rated R, they had to delete 82% of the sex scenes. There's a movie called American Psycho. Bret Easton Ellis wrote the book. 76% of that movie. And that movie they made into a love story. They took out all of the cannibalism. They took out all this other stuff. And most of the sex, the guy literally cuts off a prostitute's head and rapes the head in graphic detail. So these books, I didn't finish telling my story about this young man that said he'd been in prison. I gave him a bad book to read. When he got up to the Alamo Heights, I think it was Alamo Heights, he's standing, there was 250 people in the audience, and he started reading the book. And he began to weep. And he collected himself and he said, he apologized to the school board and he said, listen, I've been in prison for 10 years. I have 2 daughters, one age 12, one age 13. That's who this book is written for. Why do I have to stand up here and ask you to remove this book? This book should not be there. And so he told them, in prison, this book that I just read you is illegal.
Oh. Yeah.
So when he was finished and everybody had spoken, he came up to me and said, I'm so sorry. I said, no, you were amazing. You were the most impactful speaker. Tell me about the prison list. So he told me that any book that had illegal sex acts, sex with animals, we got plenty of those books, sex with dead bodies, got those too, rape, incest, these are things that are illegal in the Texas Penal Code. The prisoners in Texas, regardless of their age, they cannot have access to these books. So I befriended, I had to find a man in prison, I got on his list. You can't just mail someone something. You have to be on their list to receive, that they prove that you send them stuff. So I got on his list, and I mailed him 59 books, and 59 books have been added to the prison list, y'all. So like my list is growing and growing. Yes, we have so many books about rape, graphic rape. Like what in the world? People tell me all the time, okay, well, you know, the Bible talks about rape. Yes. He raped her. That's it. So I made a kind of a comparison. Here's a rape in the Bible, and here's a rape in a book. Here's sex in the Bible. You know, Adam knew Eve. That's what it says. Here's sex in an Ellen Hopkins book. And on and on and on. And so I give it to everybody, and I tell them, no, not even close.
Are you waiting for someone?
Come on in, we are. Howdy. I have to start over, y'all.
So Bonnie, the rhetorical question becomes: you're gonna ban it from prisons for people over 18, particularly, but you're gonna allow it to children under 18 in public schools.
Amen. Doesn't make much sense, does it? But they are after. God bless you. Thank you. Good luck. You're gonna win.
Appreciate it. Thank you. You hope to get fight.
Yes, I will.
May I ask something?
Yes.
When you left the Houston and you were escorted out, then what did the group say after hearing that? Do you know what transpired after you left?
Well, they escorted me out of the room, and then I thought that was it, because I was with a group of parents and others. The man who spoke right after me was Pastor Rick Scarborough. He's amazing. And the policemen, they were so nice and so kind, and they were just doing what they were told to do. It was not them.
But I'm just wondering, did they decide to take the book?
No, they're still there. I checked like 2 days ago, because I did an interview with, there's a book called All Boys Aren't Blue. It's very popular. And Houston Fox News wanted to interview me about what transpired. But then they called me and said, oh, we're going to just do it on Zoom, and we're going to put you on a panel. So I said, oh, great. Who am I on a panel with? Oh, a man whose book has been banned. And I said, oh, no book has been banned in America, because you can buy every book you want from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Book People, somewhere. You can buy it. You do not have the right to ask the government to buy your porn for you. And that's, that's an important distinction. But then they walked me out of the building, and then I sat on a bench, and they said, oh, no, ma'am, to your car. Well, my car was like a mile away. So they walked me to the car, and then they said, we have to film you leaving the premises. So they did that. It's because I'm dangerous.
You're dangerous.
Right? Truth is a very dangerous thing. Truth tellers are dangerous. But no, the books are still there. And that was actually the second time I went to speak in Houston. And the reason I went back is because Houston doesn't have an elected school board. Houston NEISD was taken over by the state of Texas. So all the 7 trustees are appointed by Mike Morath, who was appointed by Governor Abbott. So we went back because we wanted to see, okay, you don't have any fear about the next election, which is what a lot of school board members worry about, the next election, not just school board members. Are you going to do the right thing? And so I've actually sent a whole bunch of information to Governor Abbott's staff. They're working on this right now. So listen, all I do is open eyes. That's what God told me. And he can convict hearts. And so, yeah. Okay, so back to my book reading, y'all. Aren't you glad you're here today? This book is really, really disturbing. Jodi Picoult, she also had good books in the beginning. But this book is called A Spark of Life. Page 216, Janine had only drunk wine at communion, and tonight's fare was grain alcohol punch. It tasted like Kool-Aid, and there was always a boy pressing another drink into her hand. The night became a collage of images and moments, a red Solo cup, a heartbeat made of music, boys who danced so close that the back of her hair on her neck stood up, their hands on her shoulders, a massage, teeth scraping her neck, the realization that most people had gone home, the green nap of a pool table on her bare thighs, someone holding her down while another moved between her legs, splitting her in two. "Don't tell me you don't want this," he snarled. And while she was trying to figure out whether the answer that would get him off of her was a yes or a no, a dick was shoved into her mouth. When she awakened, alone, bruised, and oozing, she pulled down her dress. Her underwear was gone. The sun stabbed at the horizon as she let herself out of the frat house. Page 270. 15 weeks was the trickiest. When Louis had a patient come in 15 weeks pregnant, he knew he was in for a challenge. The fetus's bones would have just started to calcify, so it would have to be disarticulated. The way Louis explained it was that the uterus was like an ice cream cone. Imagine you had an Oreo at the top and needed to get it through the bottom of the cone. Of course you had to break it into parts. In Mississippi, there was an additional wrinkle. By law, you could not use forceps while a fetus still had a heartbeat. This law was passed by non-scientists who believed that fetuses at 16 weeks could feel pain, which they could not. But as a result of political posturing, Louis had to amend his procedure, adding extra steps that might cause more risk to the patient instead of doing what was best for her. That meant Louis would start with an ultrasound. Cytotech caused sustained uterine contractions, which meant that most of the fetuses would be asystolic due to the constant squeezing. But if that was not the case, if there was still a heartbeat visible on the ultrasound, it was up to Louis to use suction to bring the umbilical cord down and transect it to end cardiac activity. He saw it, the tiny crack of a grin on Joy's face. "You're going to feel a little pressure," Louis said, putting the speculum inside now. "Relax that muscle. There you go. Where are you from?" "Oxford." "That's a hike." When Louis chatted through the procedure, he wasn't trivializing. He was normalizing the moment, putting it into context. He wanted the woman to know that this abortion was a sliver of her life and not the benchmark upon which she should judge herself. Harriet, his partner, smoothly held up the lidocaine vial while he filled the syringe. "Little pinch coming, give me a cough now." He reached to his left for one of the metal dilation rods and inserted it into the cervix and then out. Then a slightly larger one, and after that, all the way up to the 15 millimeters as the cervix opened like the shutter of a camera. "You're going to feel fluid now, that's normal." He ruptured her membranes and leaned back as a gush of blood and amniotic fluid spilled between her legs onto the tray. "A little pulling now, just breathe. All I'm doing is maneuvering around inside your uterus." It was the forceps out again and again, a miniature hand, a knee, in and out, in and out. Louis knew exactly what it meant to disrupt a life process. At 5 weeks, he'd seen nothing but a tiny sac. At 6 weeks, a fetal pole with cardiac activity. And it goes on and on. So, if no one's noticed, our children are in crisis mode. And this is not the only reason, but this is something that's so fixable, so easy to fix. Take the crap off the shelves. Give them stuff that's nutritional and nourishing and uplifting and encouraging. Why are we giving them thousands of books about rape, about murder, about group sex, sex with animals, sex with dead bodies? We got it all, y'all. And so, yeah. I know that you have fighters on Northeast ISD. You're fixing to have a new one. And I pray every day for the school board members. Because I've been to 163 school boards and read porn to them. And 20 or 30 have removed all the books. What a victory. Thank you, Jesus. But the rest are like, no, we can't. We're afraid to get sued.
Yeah. By whom?
By the people that sued me, the people that
Books
suing.
suppliers or what?
So in Texas, it hasn't happened yet, but in many states, it started in Florida, and Iowa and Utah, they are being sued by the publisher. And the authors. The authors of these books are suing when their books are removed. Who have disclaimers. And so think about that. What's going to happen if you cannot remove any book? Because then wouldn't you sue if you were the author and you wanted more money? You would just sue and then your books would never get removed. That is not a solution. Because we all have limited space and limited money. So we're already censoring some books. You can't buy every book.
And your government subsidizing the whole
Amen.
program.
Why don't they sue the people that never buy the book?
Don't give them any ideas.
They don't need to have to worry about the people who don't buy the book because the government provides it to the schools to put it into the library.
Right.
That's the big customer base right there.
Yeah.
So this is a very demonic, I mean, listen, Satan has a big playground, y'all. He's everywhere. He's in every organization, every school, every college and university, medical school, bar association. He's everywhere. The American Library Association puts these books, the worst books you can ever find, they get awards. Great awards, and then they send out lists. They send 2 lists, one's monthly, one's quarterly. So the lists come and they say, must buy new literary masterpieces. No library is complete without them. So of course, if you're a librarian, you want a complete library, right? Even I wanted to buy this stuff until I was like, nope, not that, not that. And so you have to be very discerning. The problem is if you don't know Jesus, you have no discernment. And so I go and I argue with people, I read to them, I show them the books, and they tell me, kids need this. I have people see the sex books, and those aren't the word picture. They say children need this, but I literally see scales come down over their eyes, just like the Bible tells us. The Bible tells us they cannot see truth, and they cannot hear truth. So I'm arguing with them, they can't hear unless God drops the scales from their eyes. That's the only way it's ever going to happen. But that doesn't mean I stop. I still stand. And if my only victory is another parent that suddenly knows and suddenly stops their child from checking out books or going to the library on their own or going to public school. Our public schools are broken. Not everyone and not every teacher, but so many of them. And so our kids in Texas, this is the average, we have 5.5 million students. They read at their grade level. 32% of them read at their grade level. That means 68% do not. 28% of them do math at their grade level. Why don't we focus on things that nourish and uplift? Let's go back and focus on basics. Reading, writing, arithmetic. Not porn. We don't need that. Yes, sir.
You should be glad that they can read, otherwise they'd be reading this stuff.
Amen. They're all picture books too.
On the contrary of that, if you can't read, these books are online in the library and the student can listen to them as they're watching the pictures.
That's right. And another thing is almost every school library I've ever been into, they have a link to their public library. And there's no levels of what they can and cannot get online from their local library. So we have a lot of work to do. Are we going to fix everything? No. But we can fix some things. Everybody can do some things. Yes, Pat?
Bonnie, so if I understand correctly, we have books in here that are promoting not just pornography, sex, but all sorts of sex,
Abortion.
unnatural. But then we can end up promoting abortion and lies, false information about abortion and how babies, preborn babies feel pain or don't feel pain. And so then we're paying for it with taxpayer dollars. So when you go in the libraries, are you looking for the Bible as well? And you ever find, you see if the libraries have
Most libraries have the Bible. Most libraries have the King James Version, which is actually the one I like. But, you know, they're not getting checked out. Kids are not, you know, I think. But they need to be there. So, but yeah, people, I have a bill in Oklahoma. in the Oklahoma legislature. And so it got through the Senate, and now it's stalled in the House. But they always argue, you know, the Bible has explicit content. Let me read yours, let me read mine. Yes, sir.
Well, if the Bible is placed in the reference book section, they can't check it out.
That's a good point. These books should be in the reference book. They shouldn't even be there, right? I'm okay with the Bible being there. And I understand there are some graphic scriptures. Not very many, and not graphic like the graphic that, you know, I know about.
Not unless you speak Hebrew.
Not unless you speak Hebrew, which I don't. I started learning Hebrew a few years ago, but then I took up the book battle and I haven't read Hebrew since then. Yeah, we've got so much content. Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls. That's one book that I found. It's about a 14-year-old girl who does not want to live with her family anymore. So she's in Baltimore. She goes to a homeless encampment, finds a lady, a girl, about her size and shape, befriends her. A few weeks later, she invites her to her house so she can kill her. She puts her in the barn, burns the barn, and then leaves her own suicide note. So everybody thinks it's her. And she lives off the grid with a group of 5 14-year-olds who've done the same thing. And they start laughing because they're talking about how if you pretend to die, your parents do not change the locks. And you can get in. You can go into the gun cabinet. You can go into the liquor cabinet. You can go into the medicine cabinet. And if you go to the medicine cabinet, you should steal Percocet and Vicodin and Valium, and they name 3 or 4 different pills. Yeah, no, listen. It's very dark. Then, one night, they're all talking, all the teenagers. Listen, the other thing is kids do not have discernment. Their brains are not fully formed.
They're very suggestible.
Very suggestible. So when this book comes out, like I'm reading it going, oh, who's going to pay for their food? Who's going to pay for their house? How are these kids living off the grid? This is not going to work. But a child does not think of those things. They decide that her stepfather needs to die. And they laugh for 3.5 pages because he is a diabetic. And they say we can get away indetectably killing our parent. And they do. They go into the house, they grab the guy, wrap him in a chair with a rope, inject him with his whole bottle of insulin. And at the end of the book, you know, she's gotten away with the murder of the homeless girl and the murder and gotten away with it. What are we allowing to be planted into the minds of our children? This is the issue. There's a book, you don't have it, it's called Boy Toy. It's about a 6th grade student that on his first day of 6th grade, his 6th grade teacher begins grooming him. By Christmas, they're having sex. Graphic sex. And in one of my favorite quotes, they're in bed having sex. He gets up and she says, oh, honey, go into my briefcase and get the answers to tomorrow's test. I don't want you falling behind. So think about, and this book's for 12-year-olds. All these books that I'm telling you about are for 12-year-olds. Whatever the 12-year-old boy is thinking that are reading this, wow, like I wouldn't mind having all the answers to all the tests, right? Because that's the way children's minds think. And so that's also, I got that book added to the criminal justice list because that's molestation. So, yeah, there's a lot of work to do. But guess what? We are fighting from a position of victory already because we have Jesus. And so we keep fighting.
So Jack the Ripper's well known, talked about even to the young people of today. What's that particular book about, stalking Jack the Ripper?
Let me see. You'll love it.
Well, it's like the Thornburg.
See if I-
It seems innocuous. It was a great book.
Yeah.
800-page book that was not pornographic.
And television.
Yeah, but, so somebody might pick it up, oh, Thornburg.
It's not the same book.
Yeah. It's twisted, it's demonic. It is deception.
Very disgusting. Okay, this is Stalking Jack the Ripper. This is by an author named Carrie Maniscalco. I found her recently. Page 142. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police officers just for jolly. Wouldn't you? Keep this letter back till I do a bit more work. Page 152. Well, I stared at the blood splatter, knowing it told a story of its own, losing myself completely in the science. The blood on the left side of the neck appeared to have been spilled first, as it was clotting differently from blood located on the right side of the body. It wasn't hard to deduce her throat had been slashed first, before she was split open. I crept closer, pointing at each injury out for Blackburn. He started with her throat, then probably cut out her mouth. I doubt he appreciated what she had to say, or perhaps he wanted to punish her. Once she was choking on blood, he laid her body out, placed her legs straight out before running his blade over her abdomen. He removes the intestines, probably for easier access to her organs. This cavity is too hollow. It's how a body looks after Uncle removes organs during post-mortems. I can't tell, without my hands getting in there, which one are missing, which organs are missing. But I think it's probably her uterus or ovaries, possibly even a kidney or gallbladder. The superficial layers of skin and fascia have been removed. The breasts have been excised and were found in various positions. One was located under her head, the other found beneath her right foot. The viscera were removed entirely and were also scattered about the crime scene. Her kidneys and uterus were found under her head, while the liver was near her foot. All the intestines were placed on the left side of the body. The missing flaps of skin, both from her thighs and abdomen, were sitting on a small table and resting in 2 bags for further inspection. A great deal of trauma was inflicted upon her face. Several lacerations were noted at the scene, and her mouth had been cut down to her chin. Her throat appears to have been slashed down to the bone prior to the removal of her organs. Her heart was surgically removed and was found neither at the crime scene nor in her person. It's my belief it was removed for attempted transplant by the murderer. And it goes on. This is a girl that's uncle has a mortuary, and what she ended up finding was that her father was killing all these girls, all these women, and had the mother in a tomb. The mother had died 5 years before, and he kept trying to take hearts and transplant it so that the wife would wake up. And so, yeah, it's very dark. I rest my case. It's dark and demonic, and there's so many. This one, I think it's Ashes. Yes, ma'am. God bless you. This one's called Ashes by this lady, Ilsa Vick. By the way, the books are called Young Adult. The books are called, the category of books are written for young adults, and young adult is defined on the American Library Association's website. It used to be 12 and up, but I checked a few days ago after I had my Fox News interview with George M. Johnson, because he called me a liar. He said, you're lying, it's not for 12 and up. So I went and looked because I was going to send it to him, and they changed it to 13 and up. But it's not better.
Changed to what?
To age 13.
13?
Yeah, now it used to be 12 and up. And there's still a whole bunch of places, and I still have it printed on a form that I printed off the website. But this is very dark. There came a loud, inhuman scream. Cringing, Alex darted a look over her shoulder just in time to see a trio of deer crashing up the hill. They hit the ridge and then reared, driving their hoofs into the rock with a sound like a jackhammer. One, a large doe, let out a harsh, wet, coughing bray, and then blood burst from its mouth in a crimson halo. The doe reared again, its front legs pedaling, and the other 2 answered, slicing the air with their hooves. Then the deer surged forward as if pulled toward the edge by an unseen hand. No, no, no. Alex's thoughts came in jagged splinters. No, you're not. You're not seeing this. They're not going to. They can't. But they did. The deer catapulted off the ridge and over the cliff into empty space. For an instant they hung suspended between the bird-choked sky and the darker maw of the valley, and Alex thought of flying reindeer. But then the world took over again. Gravity closed its fist. The deer fell, their screams tailing after like spent comets, and they were gone. Touching Jack made her skin crawl, and she winced at the squelching, sucking sound Jack's body made as she rolled him onto his back. Blood painted his face in a slick mask still warm enough to steam. His front teeth, bottom and top, had snapped on impact against the rock into a scatter of smeary, squarish bits that looked like chiclets. Steeling herself, she pressed her fingers to Jack's neck to check for a pulse. His blood was sticky, and she clamped back a whisper. In another life, they might have been a couple having a picnic, except these kids weren't munching on sandwiches. There was also a woman, a grandmotherly sort, who lay flat on the ground, head thrown back, mouth unhinged. A pair of eyeglasses on a keeper chain dragging in the dirt. The skin was ripped, the knobby tube of her windpipe slopping out like a fleshly tapeworm. The blood, and there had been a lot of it, had dried to rust in a white bib over the woman's chest. But from the way her hands were clawed, Alex thought she'd been clutching her belly when she died. Hadn't done the woman any good, judging from the way her guts boiled out in a dusky, desiccated tangle. The boy and girl were eating, stuffing their faces, actually, splashes of blood smearing their mouths and dripping over their chins like running clowns' makeup. With a grunt, the boy plunged his fist into the woman's abdomen and rooted around before coming back up with a drippy fistful of something liverish and soft enough that Alice could hear the squelch as the meaty thing oozed between his fists. Ponytail Blonde made a grab for her companion's tasty treat, but Basketball Boy let out a warning grunt and batted her hands away. Pouting, Ponytail Blonde tossed her head hard enough to make her filthy hair dance. Then turning away from the boy, the girl jabbed her two stiff fingers and gouged out the woman's left eye. She gave the slick, bloody globe a triumphant wave as if taunting her basketball boyfriend, but he paid no attention and kept chowing down on whatever it was he pulled out. With another toss of her head, Ponytail Blonde popped the eye into her mouth like a grape. It goes on and on. It goes on and on.
Which book is that?
It's called Ashes by Elizabeth.
That is absolutely demonically vulgar.
It is so demonic, and that's what I'm here to share. If you get nothing else, understand that these books have demonic influence. And when kids are absorbing this content into their minds, Satan has a way in. And we can see that our kids are in crisis mode. So it's not going to fix everything, but it fixes one thing. And our tax dollars should not be buying this. And, you know, I go into the libraries, and the librarians have these displays. Oh, a recommendation. I always find these books being recommended.
Can I ask a question about on all the light we cannot see by the word? It's sort of a deceptive title.
Yeah. Sparkle
It
light.
seems that way anyway.
Yeah, you want me to read it? Read it for you? No. They're all twisted.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sex content. I didn't mark necessarily the sex for this group. It's sexual, tons and tons of drug and alcohol use. Tons. I'm talking like you can't even understand. We have a book, it's not in your library, it's by Ellen Hopkins also, it's called Tricks. And it tells kids, do not, if you want maximum efficacy of your crack, do not smoke it. It needs to be injected. So I'm like, okay, that's exactly what I would want. My kids having maximum efficacy for their crack cocaine, right? Listen, we have to do better. So I will get Marsha the list of these books. And yeah, we need to be telling everyone we know to go vote. And we need to be voting for people who love Jesus. Because he is the only answer to all of this nonsense that we're going through. There is no solution. There is only Jesus.
No halfway solution.
no halfway solutions.
So Bonnie, we have another book that's promoting cannibalism, and on top of that, and what was your experience when you went to speak at the Northeast Independent School District board meeting?
So I did not go to the board meeting. I met with the superintendent and the president of the school board, with Pastor Richard Vega and Pastor Mark Lugo. So Pastor Mark Lugo is from right here in San Antonio, and he got the meeting. And so we went, those two gentlemen were there, and there was a female attorney that was also, that they invited, so she was present.
When was this? Because they meet always before, more than a year ago.
Yeah, it was about a year ago, give or take, maybe like a year and a half.
So it was the previous superintendent.
We don't know.
Yeah,
It was,
It was,
Sean Myers.
don't remember his name, but it was like a year and some months ago, so probably if you have a new one, maybe your new one, is he better?
He claims to be a Christian.
They all-
No, my kids didn't.
No, okay.
Did not, explain this.
So, one of the things that my fight has taught me is that, and I used to be one, y'all. I used to be what I call now a Sunday Christian. I would go to church, and I would praise and worship Him for 1 hour, and then I would say, bye God, see you next Sunday. Right? I didn't take Him home with me. I didn't take Him into my school or my life or my job or my work or my vacations or anywhere else. Never even knew that was a thing. And so I give people grace when that's the way they live in their life. But what we need is courageous Christian people. We don't need Christian people. Because most Christian people, the Bible tells us the way is broad to perdition. And so that means that most of the people that we know, even the ones that we think are Christian, even the ones that claim to be, depart from me, I never knew you. That's what people are going to hear. And so when I went, I read, they were shocked. They asked me for my list. At the time, I probably had like 900 or so. And many of those books did disappear.
Wow.
Not all. And here's the other problem. New books come out every week. I got a list yesterday. The list comes out on Tuesday. I got it yesterday. And there were 200 books on it, and probably 45. Immediately I knew they were bad because they're by authors. If there's a brand new book by a very bad author, don't buy it. Because here's how it goes. I have not seen one instance that an author goes like this and changes.
Well, that's sin. Because sin
Amen.
always goes down.
100%. 100%. Yeah. And so when I was on the interview with George M. Johnson, who wrote All Boys Aren't Blue, We Are Broken, Flamboyant Gay Boys in High School, and several other books, he said, oh, my book, I'm the most banned author in America. And I said, George, there's not been one book banned in America. You can go buy it if you can't find it at your school or at your local library. And he's like, oh, only a white woman would say that. You have money to go buy books. But people are suffering in the brown and black communities. We don't have money to buy books. So I said, George, why don't you donate books to the schools that want them? You are living the American dream. You've written 5 books. You have success. Why don't you donate? No. Only a white woman would say that. Okay. It doesn't have anything to do with the color of your skin. It's the condition of our hearts. So, yeah. But anyway, there's always excuses. But if someone really wants to, I told him, you can donate all the books you want. You can take tax deductions for it. Donate your books if you think they're so important. They're not important. His book that I'm talking about, All Boys Aren't Blue, was read by Senator Kennedy from Louisiana into the congressional record. That's the book that I'm talking about. It's very perverted, and so he said, no, your problem is you don't like the word penis, because when someone says the word penis in these books, you go crazy. And I said, well, here's your book. It says, he pulled out my dick and sucked on it. It doesn't say penis. Your book doesn't say penis one time. And he's like, oh, that's nonsense. It's not nonsense. But the problem is they believe with all their heart they're doing the right thing. He believes with all his heart he's doing the right thing. They believe that kids need this content desperately. It scales over the eyes. And so the only solution is speak truth. And if you get hauled out of your school board or shut down, or it doesn't matter, because we only have an audience of one, the one. Nobody else matters. So if you're doing what he asks you to do, you have rewards in heaven. So,
What was the final? How did the meeting end? You said some of the books a lot of the books were taken out, but how did the meeting end from that?
yeah, they were very gracious. You know, I mean, they said they would look at the books and take some out. I checked a few months later, and probably 200 books, give or take. Mark Lugo sent me a front page newspaper from the San Antonio Express News when we, because we've spoken at every single school district in San Antonio. And one of them, and I don't think it was Northeast ISD, took out like 2,100 books. And it was on the front page, above the fold of the San Antonio Express News.
Wow.
How they said it.
Well, it's always fun to make the other side outraged. Right. To make them outraged. And so, yeah, I don't think that was Northeast. But, yeah, listen, I mean.
And if the parents knew, they would be outraged.
But, like me, I didn't know right in the beginning either. People told me, there's bad stuff in the library. And I was like, well, what? I haven't seen anything. What does it say? What is it? Show me a picture. Nobody could show me. When I saw the first picture, that blowjob picture that I showed you, I was like, my head exploded. It's still exploding. And that was not even the worst book I've ever seen, but I thought it was going to be the worst book. I couldn't imagine that it was worse than that. Like, what in the world are we doing? And that was the book that was sitting, right in front of the beanbags in our library in Lano. And we still have, listen, the people that sued me, 7 residents from Llano County. It's Leela Little versus Llano County. So Leela Little, in May 23rd, 2025, the Fifth Circuit gave us a great, beautiful ruling. We won. They appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. So on December 8th, the U.S. Supreme Court came down and said, we're not hearing the case because we agree with the lower ruling. Okay? That day was the last day to run for office. She went down and filed to run as a Democrat against my county commissioner. Her husband went down to file to run as a Republican against my county commissioner. So they both filed to run against my county commissioner. And my county commissioner won in the primary 92% to 8%. Yes, because people were outraged. And now he's got to beat the wife. But it's a lot of pressure. Like when you have like a husband and a wife both running against you. In Llano, no one has run on the Democrat ticket for 22 years. She's the first one. She's going to lose. She's going to lose spectacularly. But it's still pressure. And so,
But everybody knows her name now.
everybody knows her name, and she is, the American Library Association is the umbrella, and then Texas Library Association and Oklahoma. Every state has their own. They're so corrupt, extremely corrupt. They put all these bad books on lists and encourage the librarians to buy them. They award the books, like that, Let's Talk About It, with the penis pictures and the pay-per-view porn and all that. That won the 12-year-old, it's called Great Graphic Novel of the Year in 2022. Huge award. And so librarians buy it. Now, I don't give the librarians much grace because with all of the commentary and promotion around libraries these days, if I was a librarian, I would be, if I didn't know, I would be searching my libraries. What is in here? In Llano ISD, my daughter graduated in 2019, And I started challenging books in 2024. And I challenged 38 books. So I took my first book, and they said, Ms. Wallace, no one has ever challenged a book in the history of Llano ISD. We don't have a policy. I said, well, you're going to need one, so make a policy. So they made a policy, and I challenged 38 books. I sent one challenge every day, not Sunday, but 6 days a week, and when I got to 38 books, the principal called me. He said, Ms. Wallace, we're drowning. Can you just wait? And then, let us, we haven't even gotten through one challenge, and you're still, give us some time. I said, sure, I can give you some time. His son graduated with my daughter. 4 of the school board children and the superintendent's children graduated with my daughter. So we know these people. We've gone on mission trips with them. We know these people. We went to church with 3 of them. I changed churches, though. And about 6 months later, I decided to challenge more books. So I took 9 more challenges, and I took them in. And he told me, Ms. Wallace, we have changed our policy. You no longer have authority to challenge because you don't have a current student in the district. And I said, you're a slime ball. That's why you told me not to challenge. But I said, that's okay. So I went down and I got SB 13, filed, amended. It gives me, any taxpayer, listen, that's taxation without representation. I'm buying this stuff. Why can't I challenge it? So I got that in.
Challenge right there at the moment?
I couldn't because they had already enacted new policy. And he showed it to me. Here, look, on March 3rd or whatever it was, we changed our policy. Sorry.
Did they give notice of this to everybody?
Not to me. But of course I have no children, so. But it's okay because in the end I had victory. I got the new law, got it passed, and I went to the school board. It took effect September 1st of 2025. So in July, we always have ours the last Monday of the month. So the last Monday of July, I went in and I said, y'all, in case you didn't know, we have a new law coming into effect on September 1st. Here's my list. And Llano also created an adult section of their high school library. So instead of removing the books that I challenged, the 38 that I got in before they changed the policy, they put them in the adult section.
Adult section
You're 18, but 17 or not.
in a high school?
Yes.
What's the age of an adult?
18.
To check out a book in the adult section, how old do you have to be?
That's what I said. They said, oh, you have to be 18 to check it out, or have parental permission. And I said, okay, for checkouts, well, what about browsing? Where are those books going to be? Oh, I'll get back to you, Ms. Wallace. So then he called me back like the next day, and he's like, okay, we're going to lock them away in a separate section. I said, okay, you're proving my point. They don't belong. But guess what? When I went and I said, here are the 38 book reports that y'all have in your adult section. That's now going to be illegal, and here's another 1,000 books that I have. They got so tired of being harassed. So in Llano, 2 of our school board members were married to school librarians.
Oh.
One to the high school, one to the elementary. The high school librarian retired, and her husband did not run last May. This May, 3 have quit. So we're going to have 3 new ones. So pray. Listen, we just have to pray and get people motivated. Most people have no idea. Last session, I had a bill that all school trustee elections and all school bond elections have to be in November in the general election.
I like that.
That's the highest turnout.
Yes, it's voter fatigue when you have.
But schools do not want it there. Go ahead.
So we were told that the school has to choose to be in the November election.
They do right now, but I had a new law. I didn't get it passed, but I'm going to get it passed this time. And it'll start, well, that'll be 2027, so it would start like in 2028. It may start in 2029. It's not an immediate fix, but it will be fixed. And the reason is because the average May election has somewhere between 3 to 5% of voter turnout. That means 95 to 97% of registered voters don't vote. Guess who does vote? All the school district employees. Our superintendent sends out an email every day, because he goes through and marks off the ones that voted, because you can get it, it's on the Secretary of State's website. You haven't voted. You haven't voted. You haven't voted.
That is illegal.
It's not.
It is, it's electioneering.
It's only if you tell them how they should go vote.
That's done in 7 meetings.
Yeah,
So,
but yeah.
to wrap it up, so you've done something as a parent, and then as a parent of a graduate, what do you recommend to parents to do now if they find a book in the library that's either on the list or another bad book?
Yeah, that's my email, my phone number. All of you can listen, I answer every phone call that comes in and every email that comes in. And I even get bad ones. People tell me if I love Jesus so much, I should drink a gallon of Clorox and go live with him. You know, and I said, well, I plan to. But my death is not at my hands. It's at Jesus's. So when he's ready, I'll be there. In the meantime, I fight. But call me. I will help you. I will help you audit your libraries. I will get a group of people to come talk to your librarians or talk to your school board or to your principals, superintendents, whatever. You are not on your own. And so it's going to take all of us. But tonight there's a school board meeting, a school board forum for the school board members in Lano. And so one of them came to my house yesterday, give me some bad books that we used to have, so I gave him some. And he said, okay, besides Lano, are any of these anywhere else? And I said, yes, they're in Alamo Heights. And so I pulled it off and I said, look, all 3 of these really graphic bad books are in Alamo Heights, including that one with the pictures of the sex and, pick your porn. That's in Alamo Heights right now. That is illegal in Texas. Y'all have lots of books that are illegal. There's one called Here We Are, that's here. It has about 40 websites. So my bill, we put in that if it had a QR code or a website that has anything that's profane, indecent, or sexually explicit, it can't be on shelves. So just by that, we have tons of books. So, yeah.
And who sponsored the legislation, SB 13 board?
Angela Paxton.
And on the House side?
The House side, it was Brad Buckley. So, it's not perfect because it doesn't have a penalty. But a lot of schools are doing the right things. The ones that wanted to are doing the right things. A lot of them told me, give me a bill because I'm not taking anything out until I know I can. Yes, sir.
Is there a timeline in the history of all this that really became identified as a problem in the last 20, 30, 40 years? Because I know back during the 60s and 70s, it wasn't such a big deal. But somewhere along the way, it actually got identified that this is an issue. And with that, has there been any kind of correlation made as to this pornographic type of stuff in schools, in elementary schools and all that, with the culture today, with the low marriage rates, the low birth rates, and everything is having an impact on the kids that have come along since then?
Yes. The oldest book I found is the book that I talked about earlier called Push, that was made into the movie Precious. And they had to delete 82% of the sex scenes. That was the oldest book I found, and it was written in 1996. And so it's relatively a new problem, but it has, in the beginning, they were just barely pushing the line.
Yeah.
And now, they're doing, cannibalism, just stuff you cannot imagine. We have books where kids are raping sheep. Literally, and talking about graphic detail. What are we doing? The birth rate and the marriage rate, Satan is after the family. And particularly the head of the family, which is the father. And for years, I'm 58, but I remember so many, women's lib, we don't need men, who needs men? Don't let a man open your door, that's sexist. And, no, I like a man to open my door, actually. I like a man to pay for my dinner, right? My husband, okay, open the door, pay for my dinner. But our girls it's been an erosion. Not my daughter, she's rock solid Jesus lover. But so many of the girls that, she's in medical school at Texas A&M, so many of the girls are so, scales over the eyes. That's the only,
And I think with that too, is like my daughter, her friends, in their 30s now, they've gone through relationships and all that, things that sort of split apart because the guys don't want to, make a
Yeah, they mess with girls and boys.
They do.
So, and it's like they're really upset that they can't find anybody to develop a long-term relationship. They sort of get there and then it stops. And it's and they could go all different ways, and so that's where they're at this point.
the only solution is our churches.
Yeah.
Our churches need to be engaged, they need to be having, young people's, whatever they want to call it, fellowship night, and unmarried young people that they can go to the church, they can find someone else who goes to the church. That's only the first step. Because going to the church, if you only go to the church for 1 hour a week, that's not a Jesus lover either. But you're closer and nurture those young people. Our young people, literally, they're in crisis.
Yep.
I will stand on my
Last question, Jack, we're gonna wrap up.
last question, Jack.
Have you heard of this leftist film known as The Librarians?
Yes, I'm actually in it. Yeah. So they tried to get it in Atlanta. This lady who sued me, and there were several people that sued me, and it's very distorted on reality, but that's the way the left sees things. Everything's distorted. And so, yeah, I'm in there speaking at my commissioner's court. They don't put my name, they put everybody else's name down.
Well, for your information, it is going to be shown in a couple of weeks over at the our pro-abortion, pro-homosexual arts agency known as here in San Antonio, called the Esperanza Peace and Justice Center. It's paid for with our tax dollars.
Yeah.
So yes, it's
Our mayor will probably be there.
well, yeah, she might be there. Saturday, May the 2nd or so.
That's the day of the election. That's the day of the school board election, or in the city elections. I've got my folks from Atlanta that are suing me. Listen, they've got scales over their eyes, but I bet they'll be here. Sorry for you. Yes, I'm familiar with it. I got it canceled in Atlanta. They were going to host it at the high school.
Perhaps our leader, Mr. Valdona, can organize some people to go over there and observe it.
Work on that. Thank you for that announcement, Jack. So we'll give Bonnie a few minutes here to rest because we start a new session at 5:30. But let us close in prayer this session. And what a informative, I wouldn't say exciting, but at the same time, crucially important. Thank you, Bonnie. And so let's thank Bonnie Wallace for making the trip here and share that and let us be convicted as a result. So thank you very much, Bonnie. And I hope Mr. Bob takes you out.
Pays for my dinner.
Yeah, we'll do that after you're sticking around if you have a little bit of time after our next session. So let us pray for our country, our state, our county, our cities, our ISDs, and everybody within them. God our Father, giver of life, we entrust the United States of America, the state of Texas, Bexar County, and the city of St. Anthony to your loving care, as well as the Northeast Independent School District. You are the rock on which this nation was founded. You alone are the true source of our cherished right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Proclaim this land for your glory and dwell among your people. Send your spirit to touch the hearts of our nation's leaders with an intense desire to fulfill their responsibilities that protects individuals, especially children, marriages, families, and long-term domestic prosperity. Open our public officials' minds and all people who live in America to the inestimable worth of human life and to the responsibilities that accompany human freedom. Remind your people that true happiness is rooted in seeking and doing your will. Through an intercession of your Holy Spirit, grant us the courage to reject the culture of death and indifference, communism, socialism, egalitarianism, and totalitarianism, and bless us with the desire, strength, and fortitude to be courageous conduits to help bring about a new culture of life, marriage, family, and freedom. We ask your divine assistance to help us be and remain faithful to you and for our collective petitions of your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. So thank you all for being here. I hope it was informational, educational. We will. Was shown live on at San Antonio Family Association on Facebook. We'll have it on all the social media here later tonight. And please take it and share it. And then please get out. Remember the early voting for the Northeast School District and other school districts in the city. There's 16 in the city, but not all of them have elections. And early voting starts next Tuesday, April 21st, April 20th, excuse me, next Monday. Monday, April 20th, goes to April 28th. And then the election day is May 2nd, Saturday, May 2nd. So please get your friends, neighbors, your fellow parishioners and church members to get out and vote, how important it is. And I want to take again the opportunity to recognize Sherry Edinger, who's Grace is here to be here, and she's over School Board District 7, Madison High School area, Northeast ISD, and thank Marcia Landry for her great service of 4 years and of that same district. So thank you all very much. On behalf of the San Antonio Family Association, my name is Patrick Mondolan, and on behalf of Mary Ann Motion, thank you very much. Y'all have a great evening.
Thank you.